Okay, channel update. So you know I always make video game content. Now I'm switching it up because ever since late August I became a student pilot, so there's a lot of crossover between flight sims, flying games, and real life flying for aviation. So right now I am an actual student pilot with 21 flight hours. I have not soloed yet. I have not done the written yet, so take everything I say here with a grain of salt. Right now I'm flying under Class Delta airspace, and I'm flying a Cessna-172 SP with the G1000. This is my sim setup. As you can see, I'm on Xbox. This simulator I'm using is Microsoft Flight Sim 2024. Now, when I got into flight sim games the first time, I was playing Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and that Cessna had the steam gauges. And as you can see, we're using a G1000 in this Cessna 172. So this is simulating the airport I actually fly out of. We're using the Turtle Beach yoke, and we got the rudder pedals too, but I mean, it's not perfect, but it gets the job done. I don't use any of this crap. I don't care about this because I'm not flying multi-engine or any of that crap. What I wanted when I got this sim was the Cessna yoke and the trim wheel and the mixture and throttle, the Cessna style, because other planes, the throttle is like a handle you push and pull back, but with the Cessna, it's like these knobs like that. Of course, I'm not gonna do that right now. And the yoke, you go like that and climb, descend, that sort of thing. But when you're in flight school, you're not going to have both hands on the yoke. You're going to have one hand here and the other on the throttle. So you've got to get used to one hand flying. But the sim will teach you some things, but it's not perfect. I am not a CFI. Always go by what your CFI says. But the bad habit I got into doing sims first instead of flying first was focusing too much on the instruments inside. So when you do private pilot training as a student pilot, they're flying under visual flight rules, VFR. You have to look outside. You're not instrument rated. You can't be constantly looking down because you don't have an instrument flight plan. So you get the idea. So this can't teach you that. It can teach you taxiing, because I sucked at taxiing when I first started, but getting the rudder pedals made a big difference. But landings and learning the pattern, also you could probably do that in the sim. But as you can see, I drew on a dry erase board all my notes. And may I fly part 141? I am not in college. I'm going to an actual flight school, like just a regular flight school. But I didn't buy the FAQ or the PHAQ, whatever you want to call it. Instead, I just got the PDF on the iPad for the FAA's website. Now, I did buy the Cessna 172 POH for the Cessna SP with all that stuff. So you're gonna have to study this. This is gonna be your friend for all your crap. Practice sectionals. Okay, I know we have ForeFlight, but I want to know how to do this without it. That's why I just want to use sectionals. And then some other notes that I got. But yeah, so I'm switching the channel up to be more aviation focused. In addition to the video games, we still play video games on this channel. It's just I want to add more pilot vlogs, flying stuff, you know. So right now I'm going for the PPL, the private pilot license as a student pilot, but I do also, I'm very interested in going instrument rated after because I'm fascinated with how everything works. But I'm also interested in drones under part 107. That's another thing I'm looking to get into. From what I heard, it can also be an endorsement after you get a PPL. So I don't know, but that's what I want to do after the PPL. And you're probably wondering, why aren't you using HODES or this or that for fighter jets or the Airbus yokes? Or you get the idea. It's because I'm not training in that particular plane. The plane I'm training in is a Cessna 172 SP. So I'm not a fighter pilot. I am not flying an airliner. So I want to just max out the plane that I currently am flying. It is a rental. I do not own the plane. The school owns it. But we're flying under Class Delta. So there's a lot of two-way comms and stuff. The one thing that this thing doesn't get right at all is the ground effect feel when you're landing. That little vibration that you get right before where it feels like you're floating. The sim, you can't get the feel for it. And then when you're doing the steep turns, when you start feeling the pressure, you also don't get that in the sim. So better than nothing. I guess it helps you chair fly. Now, I do like testing out the checklists from the POH like that or like that. But the sim has limitations because sometimes they'll just do it even if I go through this properly, sometimes they'll cut it mid-procedure and just go on to the next. And I'm like, I can't do that. I am training at a Cessna Pilot Training Center. Got the backpack. Another thing too, I got 2 logbooks. So what I do is I fill out one logbook keep it with me. The other one I fill out as a backup, throw in a fireproof safe. There's also guys, they'll back up their hours into the cloud or something. I have not got ForeFlight yet. I do plan on getting ForeFlight and putting it on this iPad, but I still want to learn the sectional chart without it, because I know with the drone test for part 107, I don't think they let you use ForeFlight on the written, so you gotta learn how to do it the hard way. And I also want to learn how to do the E6B with paper instead of just relying on tablets and stuff. But most of my day has just been study, and more study. And you can fly all you want, but if you're not studying at home and then CFI asks you a question, it's going to show on the plane you're not paying attention. So you don't want to waste your money with each flight hour if you're just repeating the same thing over and over and over again, you know? So my ground school is King Schools. So I'm doing everything with the iPad. I mean, I do have a MacBook for it, but it's easier doing it on the iPad. You don't have to have an iPad. I just have it because of ForeFlight and stuff, because it is on the Apple store. It's not on Droid, I don't think. I'm not sure if Garmin has theirs. I don't know where Garmin has theirs. I've only used a ForeFlight, but yeah, still studying for the written, so that's what I've been doing more or less. The thing that I'm kind of trash at for the written is mostly sectional charts, but figuring out where the degrees start and end sort of thing. I can spot the airports, the landmarks, the MOAs, and all that. That's easy. But it's just where it begins. Because they ask you what degrees is it, latitude and longitude, the exact coordinates. So that's what's throwing me off right now in my written. But I found a ton of practice tests, so I'm going to hit those. Here's a closer look at my sim setup. These are programmable, by the way. But I really wanted this trim wheel because I use it constantly when flying. And these are the rudder pedals. They're for a Cessna 172. These are actually wider than the ones inside the plane, but they're shaped the same way. So they're going to be a little closer together in a real plane. But yeah, that's my sim. But a question for you pilots that actually record. What GoPro do you use and stuff? My plane has two mounts. One has a dash cam and then the other is like up here facing this way. What I want to do is do it on my solo, but I wanted to keep the sterile cockpit thing. So I just want to hit record and just focus on everything else, no talking. So any advice would be appreciated at that. Yeah, so this came with the kit. I bought this during my discovery flight, and what I did was I logged my discovery flight in here, so it counts more or less. Here's the Cessna POH, just give you a glimpse. That is everything you need about this plane. Here's my simulator. Now, you don't have to use Microsoft Flight Sim. From what I heard, X-Plane 12 is a lot more realistic. It's also on Mac. This is just Xbox and Windows, and I think PlayStation. So, DCS ain't gonna help you out here. This is general aviation, by the way. So, here's my sectional chart. Maps. I have that upside down. Yeah, so that's how you navigate without the iPad. Here I got my knee board. This is basically like your ATIS report crap when you take off and when you're landing, and it gives you all this stuff. And then on the bottom, the tablet came with the knee board, by the way. The bottom is all this VFR stuff. I put all my speeds as labels. Just some quick tips. Here's my E6B. I want to learn how to use this by hand because I think it's an important skill to have. Here's I think this is the wind thing. And this is the other stuff. Here are some mini clips I took earlier today when I went flying. We did 8 landings. It was kind of windy, but it wasn't too bad. But we're just doing laps around the pattern for the whole flight hour. You're probably wondering, why am I wearing a hoodie if we're talking about flying and aviation videos? Well, as a student, like, it's like college. It's like, there's not gonna be the glamorous side. I wanna show the actual behind the scenes, like, struggling student type thing. Like, you're in a hoodie, you're in sweatpants, you're probably gonna pull an all-nighter studying type thing. That's what I wanna show, not the whole wannabe Tom Cruise crap, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that's pretty much basically what you're doing at home all day, is reading the manuals, going over it, doing the practice tests, calling your CFI if you have questions. If you can, a flight sim like that, or if your school has a flight sim, it just depends. I built that because I got tired of weather cancels, because you can get the pre-flight done and everything, but if something's wrong with the plane, a fuse breaks twice, or weather hits you bad, you gotta cancel the whole flight, that sort of thing. And my experience so far with the cancels, because I got hit with a winter storm, but your skills deteriorate extremely quick flying. And if you're not chair flying, reviewing the stuff, practicing in sims or whatever, all your skills are going to deteriorate to where you're going to just go through the checklist and you're going to be just blank, like, what? Exactly. That's why we have to keep practicing. So it's kind of like a science experiment where we know what's going on, but things change. You got to prep for it. And if you're not consistent, it'll go out. Kind of like the gym where you don't go and you get out of shape type thing. Same thing with flying. Here's kind of my little scribbled notes. That's not perfect. It'll vary by your airport too, so remember that. But just take what I wrote and say it with a grain of salt. Alright, that's all for this video. Let me know in the comments if you prefer aviation content in addition to the video games. And if you want me to talk more about flying and stuff like that in real life, let me know. Thank you for watching.